If you've been paying attention to Florida real estate news lately, then you've probably heard people talking about property taxes. And depending on who you ask, this could either be one of the biggest affordability wins for Florida homeowners or one of the biggest challenges local communities could face over the next several years. Today, I'm going to break down what's actually being proposed, what it could mean for homeowners, buyers, and sellers, and why this conversation is getting so much attention across the state. Hi, my name's Alyssa, and I'm a local resident and realtor to Tampa. And I absolutely love sharing with you about the city and all the amazing things it has to offer for both those of you who already live here and for those of you still thinking about whether or not Tampa is your next move. If you found this fun and helpful, be sure to hit the bell so you get notified when I post new videos. And if you are thinking about making a move to Tampa, click the link below to download my relocation guide or set up a time for us to talk one-on-one. So let's start with what's happening. Florida lawmakers are currently discussing proposals that could significantly reduce and potentially phase out portions of property taxes on homesteaded properties. One of the proposals getting the most attention is House Joint Resolution 203. The goal is to provide tax relief to Florida residents who live in their homes as their primary residence. The proposal would exempt homesteaded properties from certain local property taxes while continuing to fund schools and some public safety services. Now, before everyone starts celebrating, it's important to understand that this is still a proposal. Nothing has been approved yet, and any major constitutional change would likely require voter approval. But it's creating a lot of discussion because property taxes are one of the primary ways local governments fund essential services. Things like police departments, fire rescue services, road maintenance, parks and recreation, libraries, community programs, and infrastructure improvements. So while the idea of lower taxes sounds great, there are some bigger questions that still need answers. But let's talk about the potential benefits first. The biggest advantage is pretty obvious: lower housing costs. For many homeowners, property taxes are included in their monthly mortgage payment through an escrow account. So if property taxes decrease, then monthly housing expenses could decrease too. And let's be honest, Florida homeowners could use a little breathing room right now. Over the last several years, we've seen home prices increase, insurance premiums skyrocket in many areas, and overall housing costs continue to rise. So any reduction in recurring expenses could make a meaningful difference for some families. This could be especially beneficial for retirees and long-term homeowners living on fixed incomes. Even with Florida's homesteaded protections and Save Our Homes cap, rising property values can still create higher tax bills over time. Supporters argue that lowering property taxes could help people stay in their homes longer and remain in the communities they've lived in for years. Another argument supporters make is that these tax cuts are primarily focused on homesteaded properties. In other words, primary residences, not vacation homes, not second homes, and not investment properties. The idea is to direct relief toward Floridians who actually live here full-time rather than investors or seasonal residents. And that's one reason the proposal has gained support among many homeowners. In fact, recent polling has shown that a majority of Florida voters support some form of property tax reduction. Now let's talk about the concerns, because this is where the debate gets a lot more complicated. The biggest concern is where the money comes from. Property taxes currently generate billions of dollars for local governments. That money doesn't just disappear if taxes are reduced. Those services still have to be funded somehow. Police officers still need to be paid, roads still need repairs, parks still need maintenance, and infrastructure projects still need funding. Critics argue that reducing property tax revenue could create significant budget gaps for cities and counties throughout Florida. That could potentially lead to reduced services, delayed projects, or cuts to local programs. Another concern is that costs may simply shift somewhere else. If local governments lose property tax revenue, they may need to look at alternative ways to generate income. That could mean higher sales taxes, additional fees, special assessments, or other revenue sources designed to make up the difference. So the question becomes, are we actually lowering taxes, or are we simply changing how they're collected? That's one of the biggest questions economists and policymakers are debating right now. There's also the issue of who benefits the most. Property taxes are based on a home's assessed value. Generally speaking, homeowners with more expensive homes pay larger property tax bills, which means those homeowners could potentially receive the largest dollar savings if taxes are reduced. Critics argue that could create uneven benefits among different income groups. And for renters, there may not be much direct benefit at all. Even if landlords pay lower property taxes, there's no guarantee those savings would be passed along in the form of lower rent. So what does all of this mean if you're thinking about buying a home? Well, first, it's a good reminder that the cost of home ownership is much more than just your mortgage payment. When I'm helping buyers evaluate a home, we're looking at the entire monthly picture. mortgage payment, insurance, property taxes, maintenance, and HOA fees if applicable, because all of those costs impact affordability. If property taxes eventually decrease, that could certainly help lower monthly ownership costs. But taxes are only a piece of the equation. Insurance costs, interest rates, maintenance expenses, and future market conditions all continue to play a major role in what a home actually costs to own. And that's why buyers should be careful not to make purchasing decisions based on proposed legislation that hasn't been approved yet. For now, it's business as usual. Property taxes remain part of the cost of home ownership in Florida. The bottom line is this: the idea of reducing property taxes is understandably attractive to many Florida homeowners. Lower monthly housing costs sound great, especially in a state where affordability continues to be a major concern. But those tax dollars currently fund many of the services we rely on every day. So the real question isn't whether homeowners would save money. The question is how Florida communities would replace that funding and what the long-term impact would be. This proposal is still evolving, and we're likely going to hear a lot more discussion about it over the coming months. As things develop, I'll continue keeping an eye on it and sharing updates that affect Florida homeowners and buyers. If you have questions about buying, selling, or owning a home here in the Tampa Bay area, feel free to reach out. And if you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future Florida real estate updates.